I'm here to talk about manipulation and how I believe that this is the natural next evolution in mobility. My journey in this started back in 2007 when we were doing a telemedicine company. We installed a physician licensed in all 50 states in an office in San Francisco. We had people all over the country doing telemedicine. We thought it was hard. Wireless routers, can people use mouse? What about laptops? By 2010, 2011, there were tablets. It got much easier. By 2012, we had wireless devices connecting to the tablets, connecting directly, even easier. What was still left, we even got FDA approval for our devices, which is hard, but we did. But the hardest part of it all was I still needed to send a nurse every 3 to 6 months to these patients' houses. Why? To touch, poke, prod them, learn what's wrong with them, understand it, but also to interact with them on a much more personal level, much more level of knowing how they feel, to joke with them, understand their emotions, all important parts of science. That could not be done by any mobile device. And that's what led me to a quest to understand how I could bring that physicality into the home. And that led me to SRI, where a lot of things have been happening. Siri came out of SRI, Nuance came out of SRI, as well as Intuitive Surgical, the world's largest robotics company. The amalgamation of all these things is what attracted me there to see if it is possible to bring manipulation directly into the home. So it also taught me a couple of things. Why was the nurse successful? It wasn't just that she could manipulate, but it was because she could interact, she could understand emotions, or he could joke with the patient. All these things are coming to a head in our mobile devices. They can do them. They can personalize the experience. So that is why combining all of those together with the delight and the physicality is why I'm here to talk about manipulation and why that is, in my opinion, the next step in mobility. So let's take a simple example. Step back. Here's a couple of people watching TV, and as they're watching it, their mobile phone rings. He has to get up and get his phone. What is wrong with that picture? You can say, yes, he's going to have a watch, and the watch will be able to connect, and he'll be able to type back on the watch. Great, that is one step. What if he wants a beer? His favorite sports show is going on, he's about to miss a goal, can't get up for a beer. The kid wants popcorn. What I believe is this. I believe that you can tell your mobile device, you can tell Alex, the robot, to come in and get you a beer. Open the fridge, get some popcorn for the kid, and bring it to you. I think this, it may not look like Alex, the humanoid, it may look like R2-D2, but I do believe that this is where we're going. As I described, Shaky the robot was back in 1970. All of that's in there right now can be replaced by a simple cell phone. The devices we're building now look a lot more to the right, and these are all things that are happening today and now. The real difficulty here is how do you get them to be at a human scale? Robots typically move much slower. They don't have the emotionality. They're too expensive. These things are changing. The changes have really been brought about by the revolution in mobile. Communications, sensing, perception, processing, all of these are easy to do now straight from your device. DARPA has invested over $100 million in the last 3 years alone, which have really brought about awareness of unstructured environments. After Fukushima, there was a real recognition that you can't assume that your environment is going to be static and be that way. So we have to be aware of it, be able to respond to it. And then finally, manipulation. The cost has been dropping down to now where you can think about a robot in your house at under $1,000. That was not possible even 2 years ago. That is beginning to be possible now. It's time to get them out of their cage and into the homes. And let's figure out how we can do that. I want to go back, and if you can cue up this movie, yep. This is the PR1. This is back in 2007. You can watch it doing a terrific job of setting up and cleaning up the house. There's only 3 things wrong with this video, though. It was amazing that this was done in 2007. 1, that's 8 times faster than what is actually happening. 2, those blocks have been very carefully chosen to be able to be picked up by the robot and placed in a way that they can be picked up by the robot. And 3, that robot is not actually working autonomously. It is being telemanipulated. That is not what we want. Our house does not have that much space. Our kids do not, my kids definitely don't leave things this way. It's much worse than that. So I think what we're looking for here is an opportunity to change this, to take what was demonstrated beautifully here and make it possible. I want to show some technologies, a lot of which have come from the mobile world, which enable this. First, sensing. Those sensors on those fingers are the same things as the capacitance sensors on your cell phone. Very cheap, mass manufacturable. Here's an arm for under $500 that is so delicate, it can pick up a balloon without touching it, without compressing it at all, but at the same time can pick up a can and crush it. Under $500. You now have elements. This is teleoperated, but the processes to convert the teleoperation to autonomous operation are all solved. It can pick up things like batteries from the floor and put them into torches or flashlights. So what you see here is that there's a lot of things changing. Here's a clutch. This is an interesting idea. You often need to stop, start. This is a material that is floppy and does not separate, but you turn on a little bit of power, milliamps, no current at all, and suddenly it becomes rigid. These things are all part of the mobile revolution. Here's an electroadhesive pad. This is what my kids leave on the ground, and that's what I step on at night. These things you couldn't pick up with any manipulator, but we're picking things up with a simple piece of plastic. These are all legacy of the mobile revolution, which have made it cheaper, easier for us to afford these components. And this is what's dropping the cost of goods down. Perception, a problem that has probably been discussed here in the past. We now have things that can recognize a coffee mug without telling it that what a coffee mug is. We don't have to build pre-built heuristics on what coffee mugs are. It can do something even more complicated, that look at a folding towel and recognize it's a folding towel and put it in the bin with the laundry. These are all things that we can do now. And this is why. This is another example. This is Cardo software. There's a couple of versions. It's using SLAM, same thing that's in your Connect, and it can start mapping your own whole house. So you now no longer need to go and saying, I need to map the architecture of my house. It'll do it for you in its first pass through. All of these technologies are driving a lot of change. This change is going to enable vacuums. We've already had Roombas, we already have telepresence, but mobility is going to drive the next generation, opening the door, cleaning, loading dishes, laundry. But what I also realized with my experience with telemedicine is that it also needs to delight. It can't just be utilitarian. It has to read, the robot, let's call it Alex. Alex has to read books to your kids at night. Alex has to play games with them. Alex has to connect with them on an emotional level and understand when they're feeling happy or unhappy. Everything that can be solved through programming and mobile processing. Moving from those delight moments to simple moments of need. I mean, you can see that there's just no way. I had a moment here when I was in Japan recently, and I went to an assisted living home. There was enough people to give people medicine. There was enough things to give people injections. There were not enough people to feed you, because it takes half an hour, 45 minutes to feed a person. And it is a moment of extreme loss of dignity. People do not want to be fed. So we have this situation where there is software available now that can start, that is easy with a cell phone or a mobile device to help people be fed. In this particular case, if you had a stroke, it's tough to feed yourself. If you don't, you may lose nervous control of your valves to be able to put your head down. So you have to put your head down after each bite so you don't get the food going down your airway tube and get pneumonia. We can do that with mobile devices. The trouble is most of them can't lift up a spoon. How do you restore dignity is an important feature in this. So I think the combination of both delighting and dignity is really important in this revolution. And I think this is what we're driving to achieving with mobile devices. The hope, of course, is that Rosie from the Jetsons shows up pretty soon. We are starting a company. We're going to be building a device for under $1,000 that's going to be in your home. It'll probably not be able to do everything in the beginning, but I sure hope it can at least water my plants, because I do not have a green thumb, and I've gotten tired of trying. Little things like that can make a big difference in your life. And when your son says, "Hey, Alex, give me a beer," you'll turn, look at your son, and say, "Sure, I will. In 8 years, 36 days, and 4 hours." This is the power. You will be able to delight and play chess with your kids. These are the moments, the combination of delight and dignity, that I think manipulation can bring. We are all physical creatures and live in a physical world. And I think that the next evolution of mobility needs the physical presence. And I'm happy to share and present my thoughts with you here today. Thank you.